So now, we talked about internalizing this thing. Mitchell's mentioned to you that it's devoid of form in its written fashion. The fashion of writing is very sort of technical in nature and dry, and it doesn't speak about spirit of space. It doesn't do any of that. It's intended to communicate information. I told you guys that you had to internalize it, and I told you guys that you have to be able to digest it. It's going to take a while to do that, right? So the next step in this thing is, what do you do? How do you start? Any thoughts?
Read it.
Okay, let's take it one at a time. Ladies first.
I said brainstorm, the idea.
Okay, brainstorm, you said. You start with the introduction. Okay, that's not what I was looking for.
Just read all of it.
Read all of it. So, okay, that's a given, right? So yes, you read through it all. It shouldn't take you too long. It's only 3 loosely spaced stuff. Right? What else?
Give you a view of what's going to be on the hillside.
Yeah, but right now I'm trying to get a more generic subject of how do you approach starting to understand the document.
Would I look up what other religious Mecca type religious pilgrimages there are and the historical context of that?
This isn't really a religious pilgrimage, more like an artistic pilgrimage.
I see.
And don't get caught up in that. That's just used as a kind of device to get you to think of it as people going somewhere. You ever been to Coachella or Burning Man or any of the festivals?
Sure.
You have, right? So those are in form of, let's call it anti-religious ritual or an anti-religious sort of pilgrimage, right? People come from all over the place to go to those things. So
I would say locate your parameters. That way, when you do start your research, you already in the back of your head, you're like, oh no, I can't do this.
okay, how do you identify the parameters?
When you read it through, after you read it through.
Okay, you read it through, but still, I think some people are going to look at it and wonder, like, what are the parameters? Okay, so the first thing to do, in my mind, is to start to take it and break it up into verbiage, right, which doesn't have quantitative information, and then statements that do have quantitative information. So you can do that very simply by just starting to make notes on the side, this verbiage, right? So, so you get down to design objectives, and you start to kind of see, all right, the design approach from a distance, right? So that's one of the things, that's one of your objectives. So here's another thing that's really important, and none of you are used to doing this. I know it, or most of you are not used to doing this. Most of the time, in my life, what I've seen is that when students encounter a word that they don't know, they don't stop, get a dictionary, and find out what the meaning of the word is. They just kind of assume the meaning from the context, if they can. And they just keep going. Because, damn it, it's going to take a long time to get to a dictionary and look up that word. You guys all agree that you guys do that? That's not necessarily the best way to approach something, particularly not when you know nothing of it. So, design of approach from a distance, right? Do you guys know what that means?
To look at from a distance to the work.
Looking at something from a distance is not the same as designing the approach. Okay, so here's another key piece of information, another key thing that will change your life as a student. Be willing to ask lots of questions. If you do not know what that means, you are to put a star next to it and say, ask Iggy, ask Mitchell. Students don't do that. I did this yesterday. I handed this to the students and I said, digest this, dissect it, and put it in your own words, and make sure you put it in some sort of a checklist format. Nobody, not one single student out of the 20 students that are in that class came up and said, what do you mean by design of approach from a distance? if you don't know what that is, how are you going to do it? So making sure that you locate things that you're unclear about and find out what they mean. That's another key aspect. Want to jump in on any of this?
No, just follow.
All right. Okay, so you look at the design objectives and you start to kind of see a series of kind of 5 different things that are listed there. And I'm trying to find, the next page is on the back of this one, right? And then there's a thing that says design process. Okay, so there is site analysis and then program and function. Remember I mentioned to you that there's going to be a place where you get to like more kind of quantitative, quantity-related things, things that can be measured in numbers or quantities. That starts pretty much at program function. All right. It also has qualitative things mixed in with it, but that's where it begins. Okay. Site analysis. Anybody ever done a site analysis? No? You guys, anybody know what it is? You just switched 2 words around, Nolan. You turned it from a noun into an adjective or something. What? It's not land survey. Land surveying, when you use it in the engineering sense, is a matter of knowing the position of property lines and stuff, and maybe understanding the topography of terrain. To an architect, that's not site analysis. So, okay, so then all of you should be basically putting a little asterisk right there going, I don't know what this is.
I was gonna say, that site analysis, you mark down, basically take notes of whatever happened in that area, direction of sun, land, hill area, that's what's going on at that site.
Yeah, that's a little bit of site analysis. That is some of it. Yes, ma'am.
Wouldn't you just determine exactly where the site is, and based off of that, determine, is the parking lot and the pathway already predetermined in this scenario?
Yeah.
So determining, well, the lot size, things like that.
Yeah, and you guys are going to be doing that from a drawing that's been copied for you. It's right there. Okay. The main thing that I wanted to address right now is if you don't understand what something means, if you don't understand a word, you can't gloss over it. Not when it relates to architecture, not when it relates to design. Okay? Making a simple misstep could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you guys have to stop yourselves from kind of approaching things the way you might have done in a high school and now take it from a more inquisitive perspective. Okay? So, I'm going to stop the video and then I'm going to give you a little bit more time to now, with that information, go back to your desks and start to make notes about questions that you might have for us. All right? And then in about 5 minutes, so you guys all get about 5 minutes to come up with questions of what, that you don't understand. Right? And then come back and you're going to ask us, what do those things mean? Okay? All right. You can leave some of your stuff here. Just go back and start looking at the information again.